In Climate Watch, a new report from the Atlantic Council details the devastating economic and societal toll of extreme heat in the United States. The think tank estimates more than 59,000 people could die every year from heat by the year 2050 if climate trends go unchanged. High temperatures are also hurting the economy. The study found on average the U.S. could lose about $1 billion a year as a result of decreasing worker productivity related to the heat. CBS News climate reporter Cara Korte joins me now. Cara, good to see you. So this report says that by 2050, more than 130 million people in the U.S. every year could experience at least 100 days or more when temperatures actually exceed 90 degrees. Tell us, what impact does that have on a person's health in the long term?
Well, there are the obvious things, Lana, like it makes all Americans more susceptible to things like heat stroke. And then there's also more nuanced reasons that really concern scientists and doctors. Certain medications, both over-the-counter and prescription, actually make the people that take them more susceptible to heat. They make them more vulnerable to heat. That includes antidepressants and antihistamines, so hundreds of millions of Americans are on those prescriptions. But also, if you work in the heat, if you work outside, or if you're physically exerting yourself outside and it's extremely hot, you are more likely to make mental errors. If you're working with heavy machinery, that could be a threat. You're also more likely to hurt yourself or become sick. So those are physical implications of extreme heat. But also, when you combine all of these things together, what worries economists as well is the impact this has on productivity. Because when you cannot work in a comfortable environment, it affects what you're able to do.
And some industries are more susceptible to this than others. Tell us, what are some of the industries that are at the most risk?
Yeah, again, it's those folks certainly that are working outside, agriculture workers, construction workers, letter carriers. It also affects the tourism industry. Disney has actually stated publicly that they're worried about heat affecting the people coming into their parks. They're worried about it getting so hot that people aren't going to come to Disney World or Disneyland. Some other sectors, though, that are included in this study, Lana, are what they call the service industry, which is really most of us. It's people that work inside providing some kind of service. And that just shows just how prevalent this rising heat problem is, because it's not just for people working outside. It also affects your entire life. Maybe you don't have air conditioning and you go home and you're not given a reprieve from heat. That can affect you. So all of these folks, agriculture workers, construction workers, but also those people who maybe work at an airport in the transportation industry, people who are outside and inside, places like warehouses that maybe haven't had air conditioning built in them before. They're now in locations that are hotter than ever. And so if these employers don't install air conditioning or some kind of heat relief, it's really going to affect these workers.
I thought that was so interesting in the report that it's not just heat at the peak parts of the day, but also sustained heat throughout the evenings that are coming about, and how that wears down the body's defenses. There was another part of this report that was very interesting. It found that people of color were more likely to be affected by the economic and health effects of extreme heat. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, this was an unsurprising element of the report, Lana. We know that people of color are most in danger when it comes to all different kinds of climate-related and weather threats. In this particular report, it focuses on aspects of where people of color live and what occupations they have. So when we know that people of color are more likely to live in areas that have less tree coverage, that's really important. That means they have less shade around them. That means that their air conditionings have to work harder, so they have higher electricity bills. It also means that they might be less likely to have air conditioning. So when most people go home and get that relief overnight, they're not experiencing it, because if it's hotter during the day, that means it's also hotter at night. And also, when we think about what these folks are doing, particularly agriculture workers, 70% of all ag workers in this country, those are people that pick our strawberries and our lettuce, that put food into our grocery stores for us, 70% of those workers are from Latin America. So brown and black people in this country are more likely to have these jobs where they're physically exerting themselves outside. And as it gets hotter, that means they're more susceptible to this heat threat.
And Cara, another report from the United Nations Weather Agency found that the cost of weather-related disasters have cost more than $3.6 trillion in total losses over the last 4 decades. So looking forward, what are some of the short and long-term solutions?
It's a complicated thing, Lana, because in some ways, employers that want to protect their employees, one way to do that is to unfortunately no longer employ people. Instead of adapting to this new heat that's more prevalent than ever and more severe than ever, adapting would be installing new air conditioning or bringing in more employees so that those on the job can take longer breaks, drink more water. What we're seeing becoming more popular is to disregard those possible steps and do things like just move a facility. If I have a facility in Florida or Texas or Southern California, I'm worried about heat, I could move it to Seattle or move it somewhere else outside of the United States altogether to care less about the heat's impact on my employees. Also, what's becoming more popular is a rise in automation. So that is one way that we can keep people out of the heat, but bringing in machines to replace people also means that these folks are going to lose their jobs.
All right, Cara, thank you.